So again, we're going to be talking about the 10 critical business imperatives your PPM software needs to meet. My name is Dan Norikin, Director of Sales and Marketing with Trusted IT Group. Let me just give just a little bit of a plug about us, and then we'll get over to the thought to the thought leadership aspect. A little bit about Trust IT Group. We are a Gold Microsoft PPM partner. And let me just talk a little bit about what we do, just to kind of give you an understanding of how we can help you out afterwards. We have consulting services that we help out with Microsoft PPM implementation, configuration, enhancements. We do integration services. It could be ERP systems, financial systems, sales systems such as Salesforce, service ticketing systems like ServiceNow, integrating that into the Microsoft PPM world. Same thing with Microsoft PPM Agile Solutions, seems to be the hot topic right now. And if you came to a lot of our webinars in the past, this is what we talk about: how to integrate any TFS and JIRAs and version 1s, pivotal trackers of the world, right into the Microsoft Project Online Project Server environment. So along with all that, we also do end user training, admin training, reports, dashboards, you name it. One of the new services that we just launched beginning of October, we can send you some information about this if you're interested, is the managed services. So again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, and we won't do too much of the sales speech afterwards. So the managed services, what we do is we aim to help out in two different ways: one with reoccurring maintenance, and one with unlimited help desk support. So if you're enrolled in this managed services plan, every month you get a monthly health check from us, quarterly security and compliance reviews, quarterly tailored solution-specific end user and admin training, quarterly roadmap analysis, along with every single end user, every single licensed customer that you have internally in the organization. We'll be able to submit an unlimited number of help desk support tickets that go directly to a consultant, and we aim to answer and resolve your question in under 12 hours. So, okay, had to do that little sales speech at the beginning, but at least you guys know what are the capabilities that we have. So, brief history of project management before we get into the whole topic today. So I understand that there are many of you that are seasoned, that have been doing what you're doing for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, and a lot of you have PMP, so you've already done the test and you're thinking, why are we going through this? Well, it's important for us to understand, kind of where we came from, to know where we're going, and kind of the evolution of this whole project management and project portfolio management. So I'm not going to take credit for this timeline. There's a link at the bottom of this screen that kind of tells you about the timeline. But we take a look at project management in general. And we're not going to get too deep into these. It's just nice to brush up on. But some of the earliest documented projects, I guess, if you will. We could talk about the Great Pyramids of Giza. They're these huge pyramids, and how are they built? So some of the ancient records, they basically say that there was managers for each of these 4 faces of these Great Pyramids. These managers, project managers, if you will, of the later days, were responsible for overseeing the completion. Fast forward 2,000 years, and we're talking about the construction of the Great Wall of China. Another wonder of the world was the Great Wall of China. The construction of this Great Wall, it was a very large project, and actually, according to the historical data that they have on file, there was labor forces. It was really organized into 3 groups: soldiers, common people, and the criminals. But basically, we just kind of take a look at the evolution of projects. Getting into these next little tidbits on this timeline, when we talk about project management as a whole, and now we're fast forwarding all the way to the 1960s. We don't want to spend too much time on these slides, but basically, the International Project Management Association, IPMA, it was founded in 1965. what this is basically showing is that this was the world's first project management association. So now this whole project management profession now starts to be a little bit more formal, and I'm sure that everyone here is familiar with the Project Management Institute, which was basically launched in the 1969 timeframe, and it was basically started with uh, five volunteers that wanted to start this over here. And now we're gonna fast forward to the 80s. 1968. Scrum was named as a project management style, and this is kind of important because we have these two methodologies, waterfall and agile. So Scrum was basically developed as a software development model, and I know that there's a number of you that are already very familiar with this. And if we go over to this next thing in 1987 basically says that this is when there was the first edition of the PMBOK guide was published. So again, we're talking about the maturation and the maturity process of this project management profession. Going forward to 1998, we're coming up to present time soon. We're talking about the PMBOK now becomes a standard, and now the American National Standards Institute recognizes PMBOK as a standard in 1998. And later that year, they actually there was another Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, which also basically said that this PMBOK guide, it really is a standard. And then in 2001, everyone knows about the story about the Agile Manifesto. At a ski lodge, these group of software developers want to come up with this, define the approach. So, we're seeing the trend, all the way back to the ancient times where projects had to be done, and there's new techniques and there's more formalization of how this is being done. And when we take a look at the future project management, the one trend which is evident in every organization is globalization. We have teams that are spread all over the world in different time zones, different economies, different cultures, and we got to be able to work together. And we have projects that need to get done, and at the same time everybody wants projects to be better. They want to be able to do them faster. They want the work to get done cheaper. And there's just this maze of complexity that newer projects are demanding. So basically technology has to change. And when we take a look at this is basically saying that the human need is for us to constantly improve the way that we're managing our projects. So there's technology improvements and technique improvements, and this is kind of segueing into this next part. So so now we took a look at before we just took a look at project management. So now let's sit back and answer a question. And the question at hand is, what is PPM? So there's PM, which is what we just kind of talked about, and then there is PPM. So if we were to kind of dice this up, so PPM is a project portfolio management. So what we just spoke about was project management, just getting projects accomplished. And there's program management, and then the overarching is portfolio management. So in order to talk about this, let's do a quick little checklist. And I wish I was able to go back into the chat room and see how many yeses and nos we get. But maybe I'll go back into the chat room afterwards and be pleasantly surprised. But so let's go over this quick little checklist. So the first item to better understand PPM is let me know if this is happening in your organization. The first check is, are projects and resource managers, do they fight over resources? Do you have a couple key people in your organization that you wish that you had on your project, and you don't know if they're on a project, if they're off a project, but you just want them, on your team because you have a very important project. Another piece to this whole PPM puzzle is that there's a priority of projects often change with the resources being reassigned. So one project that might have been some sort of payroll system upgrade used to be the most important one. Then all of a sudden there was a new regulatory project that just came up, and now this project takes more priority. Kind of came out of left field, and now we have to reassign all sorts of resources. Really, irregardless of whether they're assigned to projects or they're not. The next piece is senior managers have the authority to unilaterally approve and release the projects. So there's really no formal process. A senior manager has the authority to action off a project and to stop a project, just on a whim. Projects are started as soon as approved by senior managers, irrespective of resource availability. This kind of goes with the second point that we spoke about. Projects are frequently late and or over budget and or do not deliver the full scope as promised. So we kind of alluded to this, with some of these earlier checkpoints. But ultimately, if you're having this issue, this might be a case to implement a PPM solution, or maybe first a PPM practice. Even if a strategic idea is implemented, the company sometimes does not achieve the expected improvements. So, how do you go ahead and analyze what the strategic idea is, and how does it align to the overall project and the portfolio? And there is no comprehensive document or portfolio that links all the organization's projects to the strategic plan. The strategic plan is presented as a list of initiatives. The cause-effect logic tying those initiatives to the goals of the organization is absent. So this is ultimately saying, what is the method at which that you're trying to grade the strategic impact of your projects? How do you align those projects with the overall strategic initiative of the business? And we'll discuss that in a little bit. And lastly, the list of initiatives is not prioritized. So you have this laundry list of initiatives and business drivers, but there's no, there's no logic as to, what needs to be prioritized first. So if you've answered yes to one or a couple of them, then implementing a PPM strategy within your organization would be so beneficial. Next, so we have two scenarios. Again, just trying to understand the difference between PM and PPM, and this will get into the next part. So there's a leadership scenario one. Leadership scenario one says, so what do we do if direct reports are complaining that there's not enough human or capital resources to move forward with the current slate of projects? So we don't have enough money, or we don't have enough people to move forward. What do we do? Well, there's a couple solutions to this, and none of them are pretty. You can always go back to the board or to the executive committee, and you can go ask for more budget, or you can hire more people. But how do you know what's the ideal situation? And then there's a leadership scenario number two, is that you're sitting down in a meeting with your leadership team, and you're determining which projects are more important. What projects are important for the overall business initiative? So how do we grade which projects are more important? How do we score them? How do we put that on how do we put that on paper, basically? So all these could be answered through a real good sound PPM practice. So getting to the answer, what is project portfolio management? It's a science, I guess, right? It's the science of selecting the best projects for the organization and maintaining the project pipeline subject to internal and external constraints. So there's internal constraints, there's external constraints, and you got to maintain this whole project pipeline that you have coming in. Everyone has ideas. We'll get to that in a second. Everyone has ideas, wants, there's demand coming in, and how do you filter that through this whole pipeline and actually get to executing the projects? So when we take a look at the portfolio management lifecycle, now let's just kind of keep this in mind. When you take a look at portfolio management, and this is kind of segueing into the actual topic of what we're talking about. It's the portfolio management lifecycle starts with the ideas, the opportunities, the needs. You have individuals that are coming up with ideas, all over the place. We'll get to this in a second, but there's a lot of um, by the water cooler is what they say, so there's a lot of hallway conversations. It happens in meetings. How do you get those ideas, put them through a business selection process so that you determine what's the idea projects that you actually want to select, and then how do you plan and execute them? And it would be really great and ideal if there was a PPM solution that really, answered the question of how do you handle the whole portfolio management lifecycle. So that was just a little intro to the PPM solution that would be important. So when we talk about this first part, so here's the first out of the 10 critical imperatives. The first imperative is demand management. So, the question at hand is, does your PPM solution really offer a view of all the work in a central location? Does it help you to quickly gain any visibility into projects and operational activities? Ultimately, does it standardize and streamline your data? Does it help you out with decision making? Are there initiatives, and also, is it appropriate for governance controls throughout the life cycle? If it doesn't, then it probably should, and we'll get to this next section. So this is going to be interesting. What I like to do is I usually like to show demos of the solution. Now, I know that at the very beginning of this presentation, I said that even though we're a Microsoft PPM partner, this information could be used to make a selection on any PPM solution, and it can. However, I do want to show you how this looks like in the Microsoft Project Server Project Online environment. So what I did was I recorded a lot of screenshots, and I may have to play this a couple times. But this is a video. This is pretty cool. This is from something called Office Mix, and I'm able to embed the video of me going through these different features and PPM capabilities and embed that into the PowerPoint. So when we talk about demand management, it's important to capture all requests in a central repository. This really allows you to enhance all sorts of visibility. You want to standardize and streamline data collection, and provide governance workflows. So what we're looking over here, and I'll play this video again, is this is a request form. Back over here, sorry about that. Play this one more time. So this is a request form, which is basically used again to store the requests, store these artifacts, create all sorts of custom fields. And when you create a project, if this gets approved, then all these specific fields gets automatically placed into the correct place within the project, and we'll show you how that looks like in a second. Okay, so the next section is portfolio selection and analytics. So portfolio selection and analytics is actually something that's super critical when we take a look at determining a PPM solution. And many executives right now in these economic times, they're really looking under magnifying glass in regard to their budget spend. This really is intensifying the importance of effectively identifying, selecting, and delivering project portfolios that align best with the organization's business strategy. It's really best practice in portfolio selection to provide this type of balance, as you can see on the screen, between value optimization and resource utilization. What's meant by value optimization is that it's aligning with business priorities and maximizing ROI, and resource utilization is understanding the resource capabilities and availability. Together, when you put this together, it really allows PMOs to recommend not only which projects to undertake, but to accurately forecast the delivery. So going on to this next slide, and this is kind of text heavy over here, but when we take a look at portfolio selection and analytics, it's important to objectively define, communicate, and prioritize the business strategy. It's important to be able to have a solution that can score and assess competing requests from multiple dimensions, run what if analysis, optimization scenarios under various budgetary constraints, and I'm going to show you. I recorded a video about this particular screen next, and we'll get to that. It's important to compare and contrast portfolios and gain insight through advanced analysis. So create your what if scenario, save it, and compare it against other what if scenarios, and compare it against different portfolios so that you can really make a good decision on it. Effectively evaluate ideas or measure the strategic contribution of competing requests to determine alignment and streamline project initiation. Assess capacity and adjust project schedules to maximize resource utilization across the planning horizon. Run and model headcount scenarios. And I'm sorry that was so wordy, but this picture is, or this video is worth 1,000 words right here. So this is a portfolio analysis scenario that we're going to run through. And what we're doing over here is we're taking a look at the cost constraint right now. And we're doing a different cost constraint, and we're calculating it. And we're taking a look at the projects that's in the portfolio. So let me just pause this right here and show you what we're looking at. So what we did was we changed the expected cost because realistically the budget is not going to be the same. And because of this change of budget, it's basically saying that your portfolio is going to have to look a little different because these two projects don't they're too expensive and they don't have the type of strategic impact that the selected projects will. So if we play it over here, we could do is see the selected projects and which projects were unselected. Now there might be a situation, just like I said before, and I'm going to pause this right here, is the situation is that you have your projects, everything seems okay, but then there's a regulatory issue that comes up, regulatory project, it needs to be put in, and if that was and if that happened to be unselected in your optimization scenario, what you could do is force this in. And when you force this in and recalculate it, what it's going to do, it's going to basically recalculate this with this new forced in project, and now it gives you something else to save it and compare it against other types of scenarios. And I do want to mention everything that you see with these videos, everything is out of box. Okay. So moving on to this next piece, and I just want to slow down a little bit because I understand that there might be a little bit of a lag, is with resource management. So it's known that resources could be your company's biggest expense and also your most valuable asset. It's extremely vital to properly manage and obtain optimal usage in order to develop and reduce the workflow churn. So you take a look at these two sides of this Venn diagram, a resource pool that will allow you to gain visibility and control, and the ability to proactively compare capacity and demand. This is something that's really important with the PPM solution. This is what businesses require. Resource management really helps you get, a lot of value out of the resources that you currently have on your team, internal and external as well. So I'll play a video over here, and this is taken from the Resource Center in Project Online. And so when we take a look at the resource pool, it allows you to gain visibility and control. So this is the resource pool. You may have a large team that works remotely, like the globalization that we spoke about. Let me pause this for a second. You may have the global team. And over time, you may find it difficult to locate them and see who's available and who can handle what efficiently. And it's also really helpful to be able to proactively compare the capacity and demand. So you want to be able to run analytics and really understand early in the project life cycle, what your demand is. That'll allow you to have a lot more accurate project scheduling. Basically creating this inventory of the resource that you see right here. It helps define and separate the working hours from the non-working hours and holidays and sick leave. It helps analysts determine the organization's overall capacity. Having this central repository, or this central area to store all of the resources, it really gives you the metadata that's going to help the success rate. And I'll continue playing this. And what I'm going to do over here is I selected a couple of these resources and I want to take a look at their capacity. So this is exactly what we're talking about. We dip into the resource pool. We take a look at which resources are available because I want to put them on a project. And you could see the remaining availability. You could see that there's different views. You could see which resources are assigned to which projects, when they're assigned to them. And this really is necessary if you're looking to mature the PMO over to the next level. Schedule management. Now this is kind of simple, and a lot of organizations already have a good practice with schedule management. It's just really popular to be using Microsoft Project Standard to go and to go work off of your own desktop and to go and create your projects, your tasks, dependencies, predecessors, successors, etc. But when you take a look at it, really, regardless of your department, employees of organizations really manage a lot of types of projects, and it's part of their day-to-day responsibilities. For example, if you're in marketing, which you probably wouldn't think of, in typical project management terms, but a marketing manager might not be, PMP, certified project manager, but will still end up completing a number of projects. They might be working on, their lead pages. They may be working on the website, importing assets, etc. So really, in today's business world, it's common to find occasional and professional project managers really executing initiatives and using different tools and techniques to build. And that's why it's important for your PPM solution to be able to have both simple and complex project schedules. So here's this project schedule that everyone is probably familiar with, and this again is in Project Online. So it's important, and let me play this over here and I'll kind of talk to what we're saying. So it's important to give occasional and professional project managers really the flexibility to create and edit schedules. And they want to be able to edit schedules, kind of on their own terms, on their computer desktop, or on their devices of choice, whether it's tablets or smartphones or in a web browser. And as you can see right here, you have You have the availability to edit this either on a desktop or in the web, kind of as we're showing it over here. So next is financial management. This is another very critical business imperative. So earlier in this presentation, we discussed the importance of completing the right projects on time while reducing or maintaining the budget. Providing the right type of project financial management will ultimately help improve the benefit and cost estimating, as well as track cost performance. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you this video over here, and we're going to show you basically two things over here. So we're going to show you financial management as it relates to reports and simple financial management. So we'll play this over here. Part of your PPM solution, now try to stay with me here. I'm not going to try to get too technical, but ultimately custom fields are important because when you have custom fields in your PPM solution, you ultimately standardize the collection of cost data. So if you remember when we filled out this form at the very beginning, you had to put in, an estimated cost. So that would be considered a custom field, and that field carries to different types of reports. Once you have these types of custom fields, then you're able to report on this specific metadata. So all of these costs that you're seeing over here is actually coming from the project world. Um, you know, Decision support tools is important to effectively allocate funds. Also, what's not shown here, but is also important that I mention, is it's important to also have integration or the opportunity to be able to integrate with financial systems. It basically allows you to drive project accounting data. So the ideal PPM solution, when you think about the overall infrastructure, it really needs to remain flexible. Having that type of flexibility helps standardize the collection of cost and benefit data per each request, kind of as I showed you earlier. PMOs should be able to simply add custom fields to an online business case form, just like I showed you at the beginning, to capture multiple year costs and benefit value. Now, whether you're tracking benefits or not, that's a whole nother story, but it should be able to do that when you think about the long-term scalability. In addition, an added bonus would also be able to have the ability to embed templates within the business case using existing spreadsheet data. After you capture the data, analysts should be able to build formulas and have all sorts of metrics such as the ROI, internal IRR, internal rate of return, basically to better understand and communicate the project's financial value. I just want to touch base on one thing. When we spoke about the integration of financial systems, when you take a look at your PPM solution, it's critical to make sure that your PPM solution has that type of flexible APIs. Through APIs is how a lot of the integration occurs. Okay, so here's a question. And Again, I'm not able to go back into the Skype for Business chat because I'm showing you the screen from my PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint is in full screen mode. Hopefully, I go back there and the room isn't empty, but we'll figure that out afterwards. But the question is, what is one of the leading drivers of making good decisions? And the answer is having access to up-to-date information. So, when we take a look at time and task management, having access to precise information is vital to project managers. And that's really why they need to have these efficient methods of observing the status of project work, measuring project progress, and expecting outcomes on planned costs and timeframes. So there's no video to show over here because this is pretty simple. It's pretty black and white right here. This is a timesheet. And when we take a look at time and task management, an effective time and task management solution should really have the following capabilities, characteristics, if you will. So one, it needs to be easy to use. It needs to have an easy to use interface. The idea is to keep it simple. Since time entry systems may be used across the entire organization, again, it needs to be simple and intuitive to everyone who regularly enters time and approves updates. Whether your organization is entering time or not, well, that's kind of a corporate culture type of a deal. But let's just assume that your organization wants to start to enter time. Once you start to track time, you could really start to understand the value of the resources. But I think that's a conversation for another time. Another important characteristics is to be able to have single source to report working and non-working time. Now, this is really important because you want to be able to streamline the process to capture and update information used for operations, analysts, and control. So you want to be able to also have your team members enter time for their projects, and also time that they spend for administrative time or sick time or vacation time. One effective process is that you account for at the beginning of the year that 20% of the FTE will be used for operational time. Another point is you want to be able to capture projects, operation, and administrative time, just kind of as we said, and all that needs to be captured within the same system and to be able to be reported on. And again, it's also a plus if you're able to have these type of APIs with your PPM solution to be able to integrate with LOB systems. Line of business system. So the organizations, again, would prefer to have one system for time and task management that they can integrate with other payroll and financial management systems. So with these extensive APIs, and I don't want to get too technical again, that's for another conversation, but ultimately what you could do is integrate these financial and payroll systems with your timesheets with your PPM solution to be able to have this bi-directional or even one-directional sync. And the PPM solution should be able to handle that. And of course, because I'm showing you this in Microsoft Project Online Project Server, that does have the capabilities for that. Interesting. So team collaboration. We spoke on that a little bit ago because again, we want to be able to deliver projects on time. We're going to want to maintain transparency and keep control. And since we're living in this global economy, the place where we work is now more mobile than it ever has been. We're keeping our project teams on the same page, but it's becoming a little bit more challenging. And staying on top of the latest technology and providing your team with the right solution will really lead to effectively having these three keywords over here that are on the screen, really function in the organization. So what I'm going to show you next, this is not a video again, this is a screenshot. I took the screenshot because since Project Online is built on top of SharePoint, this is a SharePoint site. This is really your intranet. So, this your team collaboration could really be done a number of ways. And I'm going to show you a team collaboration site a little bit later. I think it's like 2 slides down. I'm just taking a look ahead. It's 2 slides down, and I'll show you how that looks like. But ultimately, when you take a look at this, so you want to be able to have your PPM solution synchronized to internal websites. This allows your team to receive all the information that they need, no matter where they are. It's important to have social capabilities to be able to have your team to engage in discussions and share information. This really helps get your work done, and of course, balance everyday communication. Teams can take advantage of your presence and awareness and real-time conversations and instant messaging to complete the deliverables. Not shown here, but because Project Online is part of this Office 365 suite of products, you can, ping someone on Skype for Business, just the same tool that we're using to show this webinar, and you can communicate with them and say, hey, where are you with this project? It's overdue. Have you done it yet? And the person says, yeah, I'm sorry, I just haven't updated it. And you can get this kind of real-time information. So I'm going to show you a little bit of this team collaboration site in this section too. So it's almost inevitable. This is something that happens all the time. It's almost inevitable that your project is going to face any number of issues and risks. It just happens. And how you manage to prevent, identify, and mitigate those business or project related issues and risks really is going to define your success as an individual or maybe as a business. How do you handle these issues and risks? And just like a builder is going to need their tools to build furniture, homes, etc. A project manager and a portfolio manager really needs to trust in their tools that can assist with this issues and risks. So what I'm going to show you over here, this is our project site. So every project that you create in Project Online, a project server, I'm just giving you a little background, can create a project site. The project site is this collaboration piece in Project Online and Project Server. So I'm going to show you. This video and kind of read to what this is. So through this type of collaborative page, you're able to define and standardize the way you assess risks for a new initiative. Risk rating, strategic value, financial value, these are all characteristics that are used during the portfolio analysis that we discussed earlier. And here you could see how you create a new issue and risk and assign the status, assign the category, and then also talk about the description of the issue and risk. What's your mitigation plan? What's your contingency plan? What's your trigger description, etc. So, again, standardizing the project risk collection and management, it's really enhanced when you have this centralized risk log. It makes managing risks easier and provides transparency to the senior leadership. And same thing with issue resolution and escalation. So let me play this video one more time just so everyone gets a good look at it. So here's the document of all the issues, all the risks, and over to the right side are the document management that we haven't spoke to yet. Okay, fast forward here. I know that we're kind of coming up to the end of the time. Business intelligence and reporting. This is something that everyone loves to talk about because there's so much data available in an organization. Everyone has heard of these new, not so new anymore, big data, data lakes, etc., data warehouses. It might seem like a daunting task to determine how to capture the data, how to categorize the data and understand the data, and more importantly, how to make decisions based on this data that we're seeing. So basic reporting offers tools for all of the questions surrounding the data that we just mentioned. Business intelligence, on the other hand, takes the reporting to the next level. BI really is rapidly evolving, and it'd be really wise to make sure that your PPM solution has the basic reporting and also BI capabilities. So on this next screen, it's not a video, but it's a couple screenshots, and here what we're doing is we're basically showing basic reporting on the top and then BI reporting on the bottom. And some of these capabilities should include, as far as BI and reporting with your PPM solution, a variety of data views to help the organization gain the insight and visibility and control across the project portfolios. The ability for non-technical resources to easily create reports and configure powerful dashboards. I mean, to be able to use this and not need a degree in order to how to create the reports is something that a lot of organizations are struggling to find. The creation of audience-based dashboards is also important to ensure that managers receive the relevant and useful information. You may have executives that only want to see, high-level projects such as, high-level BI reports like what's on the bottom. They just want to know what's onboarded, what's completed, what's the average duration, and how many projects are active, so that they can report up to the CIO, the CEO, the COO. C-suite wants to know this kind of quick bits of information. And then also, so we spoke about simple reporting, and then at the same time, PPM Solution needs to also have sophisticated tools to create complex reports. For example, monthly reporting packs that meet organizations' unique requirements. And oh, you know what? I think I actually did take a video over here. Okay, well, this is good. So here I'm going to show you a little bit of the simple reporting. So this is your project center and project online. This is, you could see the roll up of aggregated data with the metadata that we spoke about before, filtered by different views. There is cost view, there's work view right here. What else are we going to look at? Executive summary. Let me pause this right here. So this executive summary is showing really the roll-up of data as it relates to the specific portfolio. And then you also have your RAG reports too, not just the number reports. And then also we have the BI. So this is something called EPM Pulse from a company called Fluent Pro, and they make a really nice add-on reporting widgets for Project Online and Project Server. So as you can see right here, we saw some high-level data. Here's some resource utilization. So now we're getting to a little bit more, complex reporting packs that you can have set up, and then every single time that you want to see what it is, instead of manually creating these type of projects, just go ahead, load the widget, and you're good to go. Okay, almost done. I haven't checked the Skype for Business again, so if anyone's still hanging out, I really appreciate it. Program management. Each project within a program has its own set of goals that, when combined together with each, deliver the forecasted benefits of the overall program. So because programs are often misinterpreted and can be difficult to define, that your PPM should really include the following pieces. First, it's important for PPM Solutions to provide your organization with tools that effectively initiate, plan, and manage large programs and their underlying projects to a successful conclusion. It's important to ensure that PMOs can centralize the collection of program requests, standardize metadata collected in program level business cases, and run what if scenarios. So this is almost like a recapping everything that we displayed a little bit earlier in the presentation. The PPM solution also needs to be able to define detailed schedules after finalized funding for the underlying projects within the program, and to find additional resources to participate on the project team. It's important also for PPM Solutions to allow a program manager to quickly consolidate all projects into a single master program plan to maintain the visibility and control across the entire schedule. And at the same time, it's important to identify critical interdependencies and quickly drill down into each project for more of the details. So let's just kind of do a recap. What should you consider when you're vetting a new PPM solution? Well, first of all, it needs to have simplified administration and flexibility. Remember what we're talking about with those APIs, custom fields. It needs to be easy to work, easy to set up. It needs to have a connected work management platform to be able to integrate to other LOBs and lines of business. Enterprise scalability and performance. It needs to be able to handle the rigor of thousands of users, which is very important. And at the same time, it needs to be extensible and programmable platform. So what's next? You can always send us a message, and we do provide free assessments of your current PPM solution. We could take a look at your current PPM capabilities, take a look at what you're currently using as far as a solution, and kind of map that out and help you come up with a roadmap. So that's it for the presentation. Let me flip back to the Skype for Business chat, and let's see. I'm gonna stop presenting my screen, and I'm gonna open up for 7 or so minutes of question and answer.